situation where he had the ability to change the trajectory of many people's lives just by saying that, you know what, my stance at that time was an ignorant stance. And you know what, that's not right. It's not right. It's not right. As a straight, cisgendered man, it's black man. It's especially important for me to declare that that's not okay, especially in this climate where young LGBTQIA youth are being abused and or murdered in a lot of cases. Anyways, and a lot of people talked about canceling him. Now, I don't necessarily know that, he needs to be canceled from the earth. What I do know is that, he missed a really great opportunity, and I wasn't really a big fan of his anyway. So isn't a huge loss? I mean, I support what he does. And again, I want all black people to win. But at the same time, like, the canceling of someone altogether, that's just not my bag. So I'm not here to cancel Kanye West, Fab, or Kevin Hart for that matter. But what are you going to do? All right, you guys. So new music this week. Can we get into Wale's Wow, That's So Crazy? The rapper dropped a new album this week, and so far the reviews have been amazing. Did any of y'all watch the BET Hip Hop Awards? Did any of y'all even know there was a BET Hip Hop Awards? I don't even know. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry. I'm also just not into awards the way I used to be. So, But at any rate, Little Kim was given an award. I think Meg Thee Stallion came up as a winner. Lil Nas X came up as a winner. Lil Baby and DaBaby, I believe, both won. And Little Kim, I believe, was given some sort of legendary award. The Raptress also dropped her new album 9 this week. I have not heard it, but I will be giving it a listen. Everyone, please, I encourage you, go listen to Little Kim's new album. And yeah, that's all for that. All right, you guys, let's go ahead, take a quick break, and we're going to come right back for the setting of the table. We'll be back. Hey, this is Gail from A Seat at the Table podcast. Now, you already know that Anchor is the easiest way for you to record. We already know that. You already know that Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free. They'll distribute your podcast to all the major labels, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Google Podcasts, and you can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Listen, I understand that you girls are out here spending money on studios and what have you, but if you're smart, you'll download Anchor app right now. Go to anchor.fm to get started. Tell them A Seat at the Table podcast sent you. And we are back. So this week in the setting of the table, we're going to talk about what's faith. So here's something that I want to share with you. I think a lot of people feel like if there is anything that they can rest their laurels on, it would be love. Love is the greatest of all the commandments. Love thy neighbor as thyself, what have you. But if you are anything like me, you need your faith to be activated more than anything else. If you are anything like me, then you know as well as I do that sometimes the hardest thing to believe in is the thing that you've had to pray for over and over and over again. So you may be wondering to yourself as you pray for this thing over and over again, is this thing going to come to pass? Is this thing that I'm believing in my heart for, is this going to come to pass? Now, the reason why I renamed this segment A Setting of the Table is because before you can present the actual meal, you have to set the table, right? So before we can walk in the manifestation of anything that we're believing in, we've got to set up for that. We've got to be emotionally, spiritually, consciously, physically. We've got to be mentally ready, spiritually ready to receive what it is that God's going to present to us, right? So sometimes that takes a little faith, and it's hard, especially when you've been praying for one thing over and over again. The relationship that never came to pass, the job that just didn't work out, the kid that is a little wayward, the broken relationship. And it's hard. It's hard when you are praying for the same thing over and over again. But I liken my faith to kind of the thread that holds my life together, right? Now, if you have ever been the proud owner of something from a cheap chic retailer, you know that the faith, right? Let's put it this way. The thread that's holding the garment together is it's okay. That's not what you ever have to worry about. It's the garment falling apart, right? So the actual material is falling apart, which makes the thread around it worthless, right? You can't fall in the face of faith. You can't fold in the face of faith. You've got to be your fabric. The fabric of your life has to be just as sturdy as the thread, the faith of your life, right? You and I have definitely talked about before how what actually comes to be is exactly what it is that you've been thinking about. So that energy that you've been emitting out there, life is a reflection of that. God would never impress anything that you're on your heart that he couldn't see come to pass. So, yeah, maybe you might have to pray a fifth time about the same thing. Maybe you might have to go back again and keep working at that thing that you've been working at for so long. You're never too old for it. Whatever it is, the obstacle that everyone is saying is going to cause you to never reach the place that you're going to believe in. That's when you have to activate your own faith. The Bible talks about the person who has the faith of a mustard seed. That's all it takes. Have you ever seen a mustard seed before? Now, if you've never seen a mustard seed before, if you've seen a peppercorn before, a mustard seed is smaller than a sunflower seed. And God is saying all you need is to have the faith, the tiniest faith, to believe that the thing that you are hoping for can actually come to pass. Because what that tells me is if you are continuing to pray for that same thing, you are believing that I can do exceedingly and abundantly for you. And really, honestly, that's what it's truly about, is that believing that God can actually do the things that he says he will do for you. So that might mean that maybe it isn't going to come to pass today. Might not come to pass next year. But if you're believing in your heart that this thing can actually come to pass, put your faith in God. Put your faith bigger than in something bigger than yourself or anyone else for that matter. Really, it's about not settling. If you've gotten complacent in that job, if you've gotten complacent in that relationship because you are believing that there's nothing better for you out there, I am telling you, activate your faith. What you live on the outside is a direct manifestation of what you're feeling on the inside. Activate that faith. Live in expectancy. Talk about that thing that you're waiting to come to pass. Talk about it like it already exists. Live like it already exists. What you believe for on the inside is what you will see on the outside. And that is the true activation of faith. And I do truly believe that my God is bigger than any obstacle that is in front of me. He's bigger than my age. He's bigger than my sexuality. He's bigger than my race. Those aren't boxes that can impede him. He's bigger than the medical report. He's bigger than the prognosis. He's bigger than that prescription pill. He's bigger than this lost job, this lost relationship. He's bigger than this fractured relationship. And I have faith and believe that if I just live in expectancy, I might have to pray for this thing more than once. But I do believe that if God set it in my heart, it'll come to pass. And I believe that same thing for you. So I challenge you today to live in expectancy. Set the table for faith. Set the table for expectancy. And what you are believing for on the inside will come to pass on the outside. But first, you've got to set the table for that abundance to exist. So think about it. What are you setting the table for this week? I invite you to set the table for faith and manifestation. I love you for listening. I'll catch you next week. Same time, same place. Peace.